Hey everyone, my name is Tommy Reynolds and this is a behind the scenes of a portrait of Tina. So this is going to be a really interesting video. We've never done this before. We've never been all in the same room doing this for you guys. So rather than just me explaining it, it's be nice if you can hear it from Mike and Cass what exactly they did. So shall we start? Mike, what was your, people probably know, but tell everyone what your involvement is on my channel and with this video in particular.
Yeah, so usually I shoot behind the scenes for Tommy for his photo shoots, and like when you do like gear reviews and live streams. And on this particular shoot for the portrait of Tina, I was the cinematographer and main shooter. And Cassie?
Well, I'm Cassie. I'm Tommy's sister. People want Tommy, whatever.
Anyone post uni.
Tom's sister, and I'm basically your hired hands.
I'm
just there. I'm basically just there to help you out, whatever, with anything you want, really. You just say, pass me that, and there you are.
It's as simple as that.
Basically. Don't really know what I'm doing, just, yeah.
But you've done that quite on a few shoots where you've helped Mike out. In fact, I try really hard to make sure that when we do a shoot that you're there, so that because I know that if you're there, you're making Mike's job easier, which means that we get a better product. So
definitely. And obviously in this one, you were mainly shooting behind the scenes of the behind the scenes, weren't you?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So you were shooting the behind the scenes content of us filming and photographing. Yep. So it's kind of like
it was proper Inception.
Yeah,
it was
definitely.
Inception.
Yeah.
But let's start off with, let's go back to the beginning with this particular project and talk to you about how this came to be. So, a portrait of Tina. So Tina is actually a family friend of mine and Cassie's. We've known Tina
all my life, basically.
All our lives.
Much, yeah.
So she's best friends with my mum, our mum.
Yeah.
She's mine as well.
So we've known Tina all our lives, and it was actually after the last video, it was after the Hazel video, that our mum said, why don't you do a portrait of my friend Tina? And at the time, we didn't know really that Tina was struggling at all with her mental health. We didn't know that she would be a subject suitable for it. And it wasn't until mum had told us some of the things that she had gone through that made us realise Tina really could be a great subject for it. And it wasn't until mum then asked Tina, saying, well, if Tom was to approach you, would you do it? And I think Tina straight away said yes, she would be up for it.
Yeah, she was really up for it. Yeah.
And usually with these projects, they happen and they take maybe a few months to do, but we had a bit of a deadline with this. There was a few deadlines that we had, mainly one of which is that Mike, you've just become a dad. So we had a deadline because when we filmed it, Mike was 1 week away from becoming a dad.
Yeah, literally my last job before taking the time off to get everything, the final bits prepared and stuff. But yeah, it was a great job to finish on. But yeah. What it was?
Ready for your biggest job?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. The ongoing job that never finishes, being a dad. But yeah, no, that was it was a real big push, wasn't it? Because I remember we were messaging. And we were throwing some dates out, and we were like, "Oh my god, we're just if we don't do it now, it's never going to happen." Like we probably wouldn't have been able to film it until after Christmas.
Yeah,
there was another huge deadline that you had yourself.
So yeah, one of the biggest things about this was our Canon involvement. The first time we've had Canon UK involved, I was asked by Carmarthen Cameras, which is the camera store in Wales, to do a talk there, and as part of Canon UK. They said, would you be up for it? I said, absolutely, I'd love to. So I've always wanted to try and collaborate with Canon.
I think for all three of us, all of our first cameras were Canon, weren't they? I know, like, first professional cameras, you had yours, I had mine.
Yeah. So we've all had experience with Canon. We all really like Canon, especially me, as I still use it. And because I had my kind of foot in the door at this point, I went back to Canon and said, I know I've got this talk and this demo coming up. Is there any chance that I can borrow some equipment and not only do a demo for you, but also premiere a video that no one else has seen before? And I thought this will give me another kick up the arse to get this video done. So not only do we need to get it done because Mike was about to become a dad and wouldn't have been able to have many free dates for a while, but also I could get it done, filmed with really great equipment so that we can say that we collaborated with Canon. And fortunately, they said yes, and we ended up borrowing the Canon C70.
Yep.
That was the main camera, because you don't usually shoot Canon at the moment now?
At the moment I currently shoot with a Sony FS5. No real affiliation to Sony or anything like that. It's just that was the camera I picked at the time. But yeah, I mean, it was great. It was great to use a different camera, to use the Canon, and obviously, like with that being their new RF mount, we got to use a lot of their RF glass as well, which was great. So all nice new lenses. Oh yeah, yeah.
Slap my thigh.
Well, back to the planning. So when Tina agreed that she would, I naturally, as I do, I go to MusicBed. That's the software, the website that we use when we get where we get the music from. And sometimes I'll just be sat while I'm editing, just listen to random music and find out what inspires me. So usually the music quite often will come first. And I found a piece of music which straight away reminded you and I of the beach. Yeah. You could hear it. You could just hear the waves crashing whilst you were hearing this piece of music. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we did it at the beach? Because so much about mental health is wanted to be like, you want to be free of this weight on your shoulders, and everyone refers to the beach as a place of being quite tranquil and relaxing. And so I thought that would be a good location to shoot it. But I thought, well, we can't do an interview on the beach though because of
all the elements,
because of all the elements,
the change in light, the noise, the sound, the
tide.
Public,
The
tide. God, yeah.
Who knows where that would have been?
Yeah, we wouldn't have been able to get any lights out there without like a generator or something. That would have been a nightmare.
Just nah.
Yeah.
So because of that, I thought, well, wouldn't it be good then if we could get an Airbnb that's right next to the beach? And what if the Airbnb looked out onto the beach so that the interview took place that relates to the beach? You can see the beach. There was connection there. Rather than the interview being done in a completely different place, you could see the connection. So, and I think, Cass, you found the location. You were on...
Yeah, I think I literally just Googled like a beach house with a big bay window, like even as extent as that. And then it come up with Herne Bay, and then, and just saw this really nice looking... it was mainly for the big bay window, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was definitely the selling point when you two had found it and showed it to me. It was literally like, look at this, look at where we could do the interview, and it was perfect.
Nice big open room. Yeah, just perfect. Yeah, really.
With that, we then went down to Herne Bay and we thought we'd do a recce. Now this is really important. This is something that we do all the time now.
Yeah.
We always recce the location beforehand, especially when it's a big shoot like this. I think the first time we did this was when we did the ballet shoot in 2018. That was the first time we'd actually actively gone out and done a recce. And we thought we'd be there maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, and we were in that location in particular for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Just walking through exactly what we're going to do. And we found...
And we took a camera with us, didn't we? So we could see the lighting conditions. And that really did help us because we had... I can't remember exactly what it was, but I know we had a lighting plan in mind for... the ballet shoot, but that changed everything, didn't it? You know,
can you imagine going there on the shoot day, not having seen it?
No way. No,
it just wouldn't work, would it?
No,
you wouldn't.
3 hours you was recceing it, so
3 hours.
That would have been 3 hours wasted for the shoot.
Yeah.
So we went down and did a recce at Herne Bay and found this really, really great spot. And I said we should do it. We should do it on the beach. And there was a really great part of the beach that had these beautiful rocks.
Yeah.
But then we straight away thought, well, what about the tide? How do we know when the tide's going to be in? And again, like we wouldn't have thought that until we got there. Like I know that that's silly and something we should have thought of, but you think of so many other things.
Yeah, you've got all the camera and technical things in mind. This is why it'd be great to have a particular location scout. They can worry about all of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, you know, when you are a smaller crew and you have to take on all of these things, that can easily slip through the cracks. And like you said, we turned up there and the tide was already in, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We couldn't walk the whole way around the rock bed what we wanted to see because it was already in so much, wasn't it?
And there was a bloke there, wasn't there?
Yeah,
doing some like sea fishing, wasn't he?
And we asked him about the tide. Like we said, do you know when the tide comes in and out? And he kind of laughed at us because, as we now know, the tide times are so different depending on the time of the year.
Yeah, we looked like complete novices, didn't we? Like us three turned up like all like happy face, like, oh, do you know when the tides are, mate? And he was like, that changes every single week.
But it was actually him that told us, if you download this app, it's called My Tide Times.
Yeah.
So we downloaded it, and we could only see maybe a week, just over a week into the future of what the tides was going to be like.
Just like the weather app, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we looked at, so that really did dictate what time we were going to be there, because initially we were going to do this at sunrise. We were going to have a very cinematic looking shot of the sun rising as it was hitting Tina's face, but as it turned out, looking at the app,
Wasn't going to be possible.
no, because again, if we'd have turned up on the day all ready to go and the tide was in, it would have totally screwed the whole.
Well, yeah, we'd have been ready to start filming from like 6 o'clock in the morning, and we wouldn't have been able to do anything until about 10 or 11.
So.
Yeah.
Waste of time.
Yeah.
So thank you, random bloke at Herne Bay.
If you're watching,
Yeah. Cheers, mate.
Mother Nature could have screwed us.
one of the bigger difference between this shoot and the others is that this was a 2-day shoot. So we spent the first day just doing the B-roll stuff, and the second day, or the second morning, we devoted the whole morning to just the interview. But before we kind of speak specifically about the interview, let's talk about the B-roll day first and talk about what we were using and stuff. So Mike, you were using we were able to borrow the Canon C70. So do you want to just tell us about the camera and how you found using it? How did it compare to the Sony?
Definitely. So if my recollection's correct, we didn't really get too much of a choice on the camera. That was sort of something they offered us, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which was fine. It was a great camera. It was perfect. Exactly what we wanted it for. We were going for a documentary style. We specifically wanted everything shot in 25 frames. Mm-hmm. We wanted it to be handheld, to have that sort of shake about it. All three of us sort of agreed that would be the perfect style for what this was, for someone being open and vulnerable. And sort of showing that side to themselves. I think that style of filmmaking lended itself really well to that. And yeah, like you said, I mean, use the C70. It was amazing, so good. It's got me ready to convert.
Has it really?
Yeah, I mean, well, especially looking at now, seeing the final product, I think the quality of the image it produced was amazing, and especially shooting outside, you know, where we needed a camera with amazing dynamic range to capture the highlights in the sky, you know, the darkness on the floor. It just did a perfect job of that. Perfect. We'll do that one more time.
Come on, that's fine.
Getting our steps in today. And speaking of the style, the documentary style, I remember once when we were doing the Hazel shoot, there was a shot you did, and it's my favourite shot in the whole thing. It was when Hazel was getting quite emotional. She was about to start crying, and you had a 7200. You were the side angle, and you zoomed in with the 7200. And because you saw her having an emotional response, you zoomed in because you wanted to heighten that. You zoomed in really quick, had to refocus. And when I watched that back, I thought that is an amazing shot.
If you really love the person, then it's what's best for them, as well as you.
I loved that shot so much, and I thought naturally you would want to cut that out.
Yeah, you'd want to see as the reframe's been done.
Yeah. Once you've completed that zoom, but by showing that, and quite a few people told me to cut that out, but I actually like that because it's vulnerable, it's real. Like it felt more documentary, didn't it?
Documentary-esque.
And I suppose it does show that the reality of what happens in these interviews. You know, we're not. I don't know how to word what I'm trying to say here, but we're not trying to make these people cry or show these, but it happens, you know, and like that, you know, you've got to be adaptable and on the. You can't be sitting there thinking about what TV show you're going to go home and watch. You know, you're filming something right now. You've got to be present in it, and yeah, I'm glad that focus was nailed though. That could have been completely different if I'd pulled in and focused the wrong way or missed it. But yeah, no, luckily that did turn out well.
You pulled focus just before she starts speaking again.
Yeah.
So she paused, you zoomed, then racked focus, and then she just started speaking again, and it was perfect.
It was perfect.
And it
doesn't happen all the time, let me tell you. I'd like to say it does, but definitely not.
Because of that, honestly, it was because of that one shot that I thought I want to see more of that. So that's why for the Tina shoot, I wanted to have more documentary elements to it. I wasn't worried about Mike moving the camera and it feeling a bit shaky. Like when Tina went in for a hug with Sam, we intentionally just kept rolling, just keep going, just keep going.
Yeah, we did, didn't we? There was even points where literally you see me sort of stumbling as I'm almost running round to the other side to capture this moment. And I think you've kept a lot of that in, haven't you? And it works so well because it does show that, again, what I was saying earlier, it just shows how natural it was and sort of like off the cuff, really, doesn't
fake,
it?
It's real.
Yeah, exactly.
You look where we started and where we're now. So we were shooting everything at 50 frames a second, everything slow motion, which
glide cams,
which was the trend, back then, because you wanted to make it look as cinematic, because you all of a sudden had equipment that was affordable to make your footage cinematic. Yeah. But now I think we're going the other way.
It's funny how you've done a reverse. You're peeling it back. You're going more basic the more.
Yeah, that's true. Because God, there was even times like way back. Do you remember when we got Jimmy in to do the drone operating?
Yeah,
we had there was quite. You even got a drone at one point, didn't you? But
yep.
We've just decided that it's too much. It's too much equipment. We actually had to cut a setup short, didn't we?
Yep, we had to cut a setup short. I was going to do some more photos, but that was partly the reason why there wasn't as many stills, is because the tide was coming in.
And the ones you got though were fantastic.
But in that moment, I said I would much rather prioritise the video, and it was I actually said that because I wanted to bring Sam in and get them to get that embrace shot. And it was either that or stills. So I thought definitely going to prioritise the video. On the subject of that hug, I remember just to make it more natural. I remember because Sam didn't really know too much about what was going on. She was just going to be there for more support, and I thought maybe we can use Sam to help tell the story. And I remember I went up to Sam because she knew we wanted to do a hug, and I said to Sam, "Okay, and then when you give your mum a hug, tell her how much you love her." And then I went up to Tina and said, "I'm going to come and give you a nice big hug, and I want you to tell her how much you love her." Okay? Yeah. When you go in for a hug, say how much you love Sam. So I told them both the same thing, basically, and then watching that moment then that you see, you don't hear it, but it's fairly obvious watching it back.
But we didn't.
But
really, the only premise we sort of gave them, other than obviously, I didn't actually know you said that to them, which was lovely.
I didn't know that either.
Did you not?
No, I did. I don't think you kept that as a surprise. That actually gave me goosebumps. So I thought that was a really good idea because they did, didn't they? We thought they were just going to have a really quick sort of hug, and that was going to sort of marry up with her saying about what her family did for her.
Yeah.
But they did something else entirely, which was that massive embrace, and it was. Well, I remember we all felt quite emotional after that, didn't we? Like we stopped filming for a moment after it was all done, and just sort of like revelled in the moment, really, because it was lovely, wasn't it?
On the subject of the setup, the stills that we did shoot, so I intentionally was gonna. Okay, I knew I didn't want a backdrop. I thought that was going to be too much, but we still had a softbox, and I was going to use off-camera flash. But you don't see that in the final video because I realised actually that wasn't even needed either. That was even overkill. I looked back at the images and I thought these look a bit too fake. They look like I've used They looks like I've used artificial light, and I thought we've been using a reflector, a diffuser that's inside those 5-in-1 reflectors. We've been using that for the video.
Yeah.
Why don't I just use that? It had been years since I'd shot with natural light for a portrait. I think, well, I've got the flash, I'm going to use the flash, but I thought maybe it's not needed. Because I'm obviously using the R5, a mirrorless camera, I could then obviously see, what I see is what I get. So it meant I was photographing faster, it felt more natural, I was talking to Tina more, keeping her comfortable, and I think that ended up being really well. And we intentionally did the B-roll on the first day so that Tina could get used to being in front of the camera.
We knew that it was going to take a lot for her to open up the way that she did. And I think if we had done the interview first and the next day her doing the B-roll stuff, I think it may have been too much for her.
Yeah.
I think, that probably did take quite a lot out of her having to be as open as she was.
It can be intimidating because you're setting up multiple cameras, there's a big microphone in front of you, there's lights everywhere, like it can be intimidating.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're not used to it, that is a lot to walk into, isn't it?
Okay, let's talk about the interview itself. So, in terms of the questions that I was going to ask Tina, so I actually had a phone conversation with Tina a couple of days before the shoot. Where we spoke for, I think you were actually at my house when we had the interview, because I had her on loudspeaker and we were talking to her. It was about 2 hours. It was a really long conversation about everything from the very start to where she is now, of what happened. And obviously we didn't have time to include absolutely everything, so I was making notes while she was talking about things that I felt were the most relevant to talk about. But in the end, Tina actually gave me bullet points of what she was prepared to talk about, so I was able to then take those bullet points and dictate the questions that I was going to ask, and then that way she obviously had an idea of what I was about to ask. So when people ask me, you know, how did you prepare Tina for that? Well, she kind of prepared herself. So maybe that's a good idea if you are doing something like this. Maybe you can get the subject themselves to give you bullet points about what they're prepared to talk about, and then you can dictate the questions based around that, if you wanted to give them a heads up about what was coming, what questions were coming. So that was with regards to the questions. And obviously before we started filming, we walked her through the process. We had a cup of tea first. She could see the set, get used to the environment, the surroundings. I think I said to her about the editing process, just to give her as much reassurance, basically. So if you feel like you want to stop for any reason, we can do so, Tina. That's absolutely fine. If you need to take a break, that's absolutely fine. But if you say something and you think, oh, can I say that again? That's also fine. We've got loads of memory card space, then you have breath in your lungs, so you can take as much time as you want, take as much time as you need. And as I say, if you do want to repeat something, that's fine. The beauty of editing is we can cut things out that you don't want. And when we eventually finish it, we'll send you a draft to make sure you're happy with it as well, before anyone else sees it as well.
Okay, thank you. I trust you anyway, Tom. So, you don't need to worry.
As we started, we all kind of like, right, that's that bit out of the way. The icebreaker's through, and now we're ready to sort of hear your story.
And obviously Sam was there as well.
Yeah.
Sam was there specifically for moral support. That was Tina's one note, was that I want one of my daughters there.
Yeah.
And it was actually when she said that on the phone, when I said, would she be available the previous day as well? And that was when she said yes. Yeah, and then that's how we were able to incorporate Sam in the B-roll. And I don't know if I would have suggested it, but it was definitely her saying, can Sam come, that prompted me to think, well, maybe we can use... Because
have her be part of it.
And
that played a massive role.
Oh my God, that elevated it to the next level, because through what you hear Tina say in her story, you know, her family was a huge part, and because we didn't do the interview first, obviously, if we didn't have that, I feel like there would have been a massive hole missing.
Yeah.
And it really did. It worked out perfectly. And like you said, you know, Sam didn't know too much about what we were going to do with her. It wasn't all contrived. It happened naturally.
Yeah.
And it was just perfect.
For me, it's the ending. It's so it was actually Cassie was the one who filmed Sam's reaction towards the end. So, and you were getting like the shots of the side of Tina where you could see the boom pole and the light
shaky,
stand.
not so good shots.
The documentary shots, the realistic documentary. Yeah.
That's it.
Behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes.
But so Cassie's footage was supposed to be for this video, for the part 2 video.
Yeah, we didn't we'd never planned for it to be in this, to be in the main video at all, did we?
No, I wasn't in. I'd have maybe been a bit better.
It'd have been different. It wouldn't have been what it was, which we think are some of the best shots in the whole thing.
Which is interesting because some feedback that I've got from friends in the industry said, for example, maybe I wouldn't have included those shots. They're too shaky, or that you're showing too much. Why would you show that? But as you all know, I love the behind the scenes element. I like to see all that. It intrigues my interest. Like when I see an interview, I'm listening to the interview, but I'm also wondering, have they lit that?
Where
the camera's
so those shots are still catering to the audience watching who are photographers, who have that interest in the technical aspect. It's still bringing in the old elements to our behind the scenes.
I do think there are a lot more people than you think that like behind the scenes, because even Tina said, I love seeing all the cameras. All the little bits set up. Yeah,
I didn't know she said that.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think had we not seen Sam's reaction, obviously you checked with her that after we'd captured it that she was okay for it to be used, but
so I don't think it was intended.
No, we weren't at all. And I do remember because obviously you were sitting. I was here filming the side-on shot of Tina, and you were sat here because it was the only place you could be that you weren't seen in anyone else's shot.
Yeah.
And obviously you were like this the whole time, like
against the wall.
And I remember when Sam was getting very emotional, and obviously Tina was talking about her family at that point, I could see you were shooting it. I was thinking, oh, that's going to be brilliant for the behind the scenes.
But I feel like me and you have this good
look,
silent connection.
Like side-eyeing like each other, like, oh yeah,
You just knew to lean back.
Yeah, give you a bit more space.
Kind of behind you.
Yeah. And it just, those shots are just amazing because that really is so raw and personal, isn't it? You can really see... You're getting a whole side of Sam's story through those few moments that you've caught with her, like her reaction to what happened with Tina, how it made her feel, and it just helped give another side to the whole story of it all, didn't it?
It was never the intention of getting Sam, and she didn't really know that she was being filmed.
No,
I remember right before we started, she actually said, "Oh, shall I get out of the way? Shall I sit in the corridor?"
Yeah, she did, didn't she? Out of the room, we were like, "No way!"
It was almost
I forgot about that,
but because I just thought, no, stay in the room because I got a feeling I may pan to you.
But that was shot with the 5D Mark III, my old camera, and one of the reasons I wanted to get the R5 was the video features. So if you watch that back, the reality is that was only shooting in full HD, not 4K. That was 420 colour space, not 422 colour space. That was 8-bit, not 10-bit. And so I was upscaling that to 4K, thinking this is going to look like trash.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. It's still...
It's passable.
It's passable. You look and it's a bit soft, but you'd be silly to not use it.
Yeah.
And that's when it really outweighs. Like, that's when story is king and outweighs technology.
100%, yeah.
Context over quality.
Yeah. Exactly. I think even if it had been a GoPro shot for that particular shot, I think it wouldn't have mattered because of what it did for the story. Like you said, it had to be included.
Yeah. So glad that was there. That was the best shot.
Oh,
sorry, Mike.
Easily. No offence taken. Easily.
None taken.
Yeah, go on. See ya. Yeah, Cass can shoot the next one. I'm out. I'm washing my hands with this.
My shot with the R5 was with the 85mm RF 1.2, which is why it looked incredible. We chose to use the R5 over the C70 as the main camera, was purely because of the eye autofocus. Because
I was on that side-on shot, we wanted, as we do for all of the other portrait offs, we wanted a variation, didn't we? So I was on the 24 to 70, I believe.
Yep.
Because we were going to go, again, 70 to 200, because we thought we wanted to capture the same shot as we mentioned before in Hazel's.
Yep.
But because of the size of the room, it was so close. It was too close. It didn't work. So we went for a 24 to 70 and then still had that flexibility to go sort of wider and closer. And again, as we sort of said earlier on in the video, that, you know, we wanted to be able to see out to the sea. Having that as the background was just so nice, wasn't it? You've got the white and the top panels of the windows. You've got that nice white, and then down the bottom you've got that beautiful blue with the sea. It looks so nice.
But how were we able to achieve that, Mike?
Well. Well.
Not so easy.
Yeah, not quite so easy.
It wasn't so easy.
Yeah, I mean, well. So when you mentioned to me that you wanted to shoot how we did, so having Tina with her back to the window and seeing outside, I knew that obviously being British weather, it was going to be super inconsistent, light was going to be coming in and out.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, if we don't cover up the windows in some way, then you're just going to have an inconsistency and you're not going to be able to see that sea because you're never going to be able to, with the lights indoors, overpower the sun that's coming through. Mm-hmm. And I had a bit of spare ND roll left from a job, like some ND gel. And we cut that over the window, didn't we? And at first we did one layer, didn't we?
Yeah, it was a roll of ND6 you had.
Yeah,
so we had
0.6.
0.6 and realised it's still not enough.
Yeah. But I do remember though, when we cut one square of it out and we put it on, all of us were like, whoa, okay, what have we got here? This is going to work really well. And then, we did one on all of them, realised we needed a second. And then when we first put it up, I remember we hadn't, because the window was white, like the window frame was white, we'd cut it and tried to stick it to hide it and it didn't look perfect, did it? And then we ended up doing like a complete white window frame of gaffer tape around, and that was it, wasn't it? It finished it off.
Yeah. But again, it was lucky you had white gaffer tape.
Yeah.
Or was that camera tape?
Yeah.
to hide all
Actually, that
the
would have looked terrible
imperfections.
if it was just the black tape. You would have just seen.
Even though it was, you know, out of focus in the background, you could still see it, couldn't you? And then as soon as we added that white border of like window frame around almost, it was perfect, and I just remember us all feeling really like, oh, yeah, we've achieved something really cool here with this.
Yeah, it did look amazing. It just helps the dynamic range, and you can see it when you look at this GoPro shot that we have in the corner of the room. You really can see where the ND wasn't used on a window and where it was used. You can really see the massive difference that it does make. We were just really lucky that you had a roll of it, because it's not the most.
Oh yeah, it's expensive stuff.
It's not the cheapest thing, but luckily you got it from a job, and yeah, we were able to use it. Because if we hadn't, it just would have just been a whitewash in the background.
Yeah.
And then would have eliminated the whole point of picking that Airbnb, because then you wouldn't have seen the sea behind it. We might as well have done it anywhere else. So I'm really glad that we were able to have the ND so that we can have that connection, and then I wasn't wasting money on an Airbnb just because it was next to the sea.
Yeah, we had a nice stay.
Yeah. Oh, it was a good night. Yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
Cheers, mate. Cheers.
Well, when you're making videos like this, the interview is what dictates the narrative, and that is the hardest bit. The hardest bit of the whole thing is the start of the edit, and that is getting the answers that you're going to use. So you need to go through the whole interview, decide which questions you're going to use, put those in the timeline, and then once you've done that, which I've said in one sentence, but in reality can take days. But once you have that, the rest is easier, because then you're using the music and the B-roll to flow that narrative. But it's the interview that is the crust. Without the interview, you have no narrative. So always, if you're doing this, always start editing the interview first. Always start with that. If there's no context, it's not worth mentioning.
Exactly.
Just like with the stills, if you didn't shoot behind the scenes of me getting a still, I'm reluctant to use that still because there's no behind the scenes clip for it. There's no context. Exactly. You don't know how you got to it. You will feel like that you've got a sense of closure with that still, knowing what came before that.
Definitely, because there's actually been times on other previous shoots where we've shot a setup and we've done the behind the scenes for it, and you've said, I'm just going to shoot a few more stills, don't worry about filming, we've got what we need, because it's a similar setup.
Yeah. And
then I remember you've turned to me and gone, no, these are the better pictures, let's got to get some content, and we've done that a few times, haven't we?
Yeah, I remember that. I forgot about that. A good tip if you're working with a videographer creating behind the scenes of a photo shoot is always, before you're ready to move on, always turn to your videographer and say, have you got everything? Because if they, and that has happened before, where I've got what I needed, but Mike might not have got all of the angles to fully tell this setup's story yet.
Yeah.
So I will carry on shooting for the sole purpose of Mike getting other angles. So, and this is why the video becomes so important.
And why someone like Cassie is essential. Sometimes in the past I've had to forget a shot because I need to set the slider up for the next shot, or move my equipment over to the next part of the location in the room that we've been filming in. But now with you doing those things, well, I've said it to you countless times, it has definitely made my life so much easier and been able to give us more potential to get better stuff. And you know, with each one you're knowing the equipment more and more, and it's almost like I look at you and you're like, oh, that, like another lens, yeah, perfect. Oh, should I get that? It helps
that you label your lenses.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe a bit OCD, but
no, it's brilliant.
Yeah,
because I'm not very tech savvy like that. You're like, pass me the 35. I'm like, all right, 35. There we go.
But going back, before we close, I just want to kind of reiterate another point that I really liked about this, was how naturally you might have expected a cut or an end point when she finished her sentence and said, and it's all thanks to them.
And it's all thanks to a lot of help and support that I've had.
Then you might have expected a fade to black, but you don't. You see what happens after that. I want to see, that's why I knew initially with your angle, Cass, I didn't know you were going to film Sam, but I knew you were going to film me, which is why I was mic'd up, was that I wanted you to hear me, because I would probably say something at the end, and I did. I said, I think that's a great place to end it. Is there anything else you want to say?
I don't think so. Do you think so?
And then that's when Sam got up and gave her a hug. And then again, you might expect to fade to black there, but no, it keeps going.
Yeah.
You want to see more. You just feel privileged that you're in that moment, because naturally you think it's going to end there.
Yeah. And because we actually looked at each other, didn't we, when that was happening?
Yeah.
And I looked at Cass and was sort of trying to give a signal of, I'm going to stay still.
Yeah.
And I've got this for a moment so that we've got some safety. And was like that to you, one. And then you got up and you followed it around. Then again, at a point we looked at each other, I was like, you hold. And I got my camera off of the tripod.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's
unrigged
cool.
it up, got it set up, and was like, right, okay. So
both
at
got
one
both
point we
angles
would all
covered.
have like some safety of what was happening, and then and again it was all silent, wasn't it? We were looking at each other like
That's cool. I like
weird little hand signals that we both just somehow understood. But and again, we definitely said, that once we were like, that was the last question. All of us in our heads thought it was over, but because of what you were saying, and Sam went in for that hug, and then you went in for the hug
Everyone's
afterwards,
just
didn't you?
relaxed, aren't they? And
Yeah,
they think,
But
"Right,
you've got
that's
some
it then."
amazing things. Like you really got to see Tina's personality again shine through, didn't you? And she was like, this, I can't remember exactly what she said, but she was, this is brilliant, really good fun.
Yep.
And obviously that amazing moment again with Sam and Tina was lovely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just all real and natural.
I love you too, my darling. More than anything.
But for me, it's like that last 3 minutes of that video is just, it's so I'm so pleased with it. It's one of the best pieces of work I think we've ever produced.
Oh, definitely. As a 3, it's my favourite portrait of, without a doubt.
It was the most thought of. It was the most thought about. It was the most planned.
Yeah.
I think everyone I've spoken to about it has had the same reaction as well. Just
really?
How emotional it was, how it made them so emotional.
And for me, it's the most creatively fulfilling thing. But at the same time, I know fully well it's not something that will do well on social media in terms of views or likes. I know I know the system. I know that a tutorial would naturally do better. But at the same time, what do I want to look back on in 5 years' time and be proud of? My friend Graham said something really great, and he said, yes, you can't make these consistently and regularly because they take too much time, but if you look back on in 15 years' time, and if you do one of these a year, you're going to have an incredible body of work.
Oh my God, yeah.
And it's a statement like that reassures me that you don't have to be churning out content just for the sake of it, because you might sacrifice quality for the quantity. So the point I think I'm trying to make is don't sacrifice quality, and if it takes time, it takes time. So at the moment we're doing one of these a year. That's not because I'm aiming for one a year. It's because it's just how it's happened. It's a finance thing, but also it's finding the actual subjects themselves. You know,
you can't just pull some random like a random model and think, right, this is going to work perfectly for it. It has to be a story.
I'm not taking applicants for these videos. You know, they're people that I already know of, and it just so happens at the moment they're happening once a year. But they're the best things I'm producing right now, and I'm happy with what I'm making, and don't care that it's not going to be as popular as my 5 ways video, which I know will do better, but it's what I'm going to be most proud of looking back is these videos. I feel like this is my USP, and what we're doing with trying to combine everything in the way we work is the USP. So I just want to thank both of you for being involved.
Oh, cheers.
It's alright, I guess.
As always, nonchalant, Cassie. It's alright, I guess.
I won't doing anything else.
Well, thanks ever so much for watching, guys. If you liked it, please make sure you hit the like.
See, I feel like it's when you look at the camera, that's when I go a bit
it goes all a bit cringy and stupid, doesn't you? Because you don't want to just be staring down the barrel of a lens like that. Like,
that's why,
it's like quite intimidating. Like me and you are the heavies.
You're
like,
there.
You got.
Yeah, I think it would have been, because obviously we're talking to each other, but I don't want to be looking there.
We're just here.
hello, motherfucker.
So Mike, tell me, how was it to have me there?
Yes, Cassie, it was fantastic. You were very helpful. Thank you.
Right. Well, thanks ever so much for watching this video, guys. If you liked it, please make sure you hit the like or share button, or subscribe if you are watching this on YouTube. And as always, we will see you again next time. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
I didn't know what to do.
What a mess.
Yeah, what a mess. Right. Ta-da.
Ta-da.
Off with you.
Right, what's next?
Yeah. Oh, that was brilliant.
Oh, good stuff.
Good sauce.
Oh, I weren't recording. That was.
Hey,